This is our redemption segment. These are the films that need a little bit of love. Reminder: this is a
really
positive.
Bad?
Was it really that bad? This is a positive film podcast. We only do positive criticism.
What film were we saying? Was it really that bad?
So if you followed us last week, we could not remember if it was the Green Hornet or the Green Lantern. Because in the same year...
Because we blocked them both out.
In the same year, Seth Rogen and Ryan Reynolds is the same fucking year. It's so confusing. The two green heroes.
I'll tell you, Green Hornet is a movie I want to put on when I want to go to sleep because I'm like out in the first 15 minutes.
Guys, this movie was written by Greg Berlanti, who you may know for producing The Flash and Supergirl and Arrow. And you know what? After the Green Lantern, he probably said, you know what? TV's fine. So this has a 5.5 on IMDb. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a fantastic score of...
Like
this is going to be bad. This
right?
is so bad.
What the fuck, Nate? 26.
Yeah, 26. Yeah.
20. Oh, wow.
Here's the description.
Love to hate the DC.
Here's the description on IMDb. Remember, this is Ryan Reynolds. Reckless test pilot Hal Jordan is granted an alien ring, like an actual ring that you wear on your finger, that bestows him with otherworldly powers that inducts him into an intergalactic police force, the Green Lantern Corps. Actually, to be honest with you guys, I didn't even know that's what the movie was about.
Defund the Green Lanterns.
Dude, seriously, like that is the biggest problem.
When Ryan Reynolds came into the movie, so they do the open where it's like all aliens and some shit, and they just like say what the movie's about. And then by the time Ryan Reynolds came into the movie, I like paused it and I said, am I gonna have to rewatch that at the end of the movie? Because I have no idea what they just talked about.
They say it again.
They say it again. Yes, exactly. And then I was like, oh, I don't need to do this again. And then they do the origin story again in the middle of the movie. It's fucking awesome. It's hilarious. Honestly, this movie would just be forgotten and everybody would move on with their life if it wasn't the movie where Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively met each other. And I feel like now they're like, Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, and Blake Lively. That's so interesting. How did they meet? Oh, they met on that 2011 movie, one of the Green movies. They met. And so then people have to go back and relive Peter Sarsgaard being slowly turned into Megamind or something.
Okay,
anyway.
just to say, like, Peter Sarsgaard awesome. As Hector Hammond was my favorite in this movie. Yeah. He put in a solid performance that he rehearsed, and I felt like his performance was really, really good. Like he researched it and everything.
Are you complimenting him for rehearing? This is a guy who just got paid millions of dollars to do a movie, and he did his homework.
I meant to say research, but yeah.
He might have even had a coach. He might have even had an acting coach.
I'm used to working with you guys where you just turn up and do it. You know, it's like,
I just say, Dave, make me look good. All right, Ryan Reynolds. He's a test pilot who apparently has daddy issues. Comes up a lot in these movies. Dad was also a pilot. Was chosen because you have to be chosen. That's apparently really important in this movie. You have to be chosen to be a lantern, which is about as cool as it sounds. Which is this
I'm gonna buzz Jeff because he's being like there's a derogatory tone going on. He hasn't said anything.
Own your derogatory tone. Just talk shit about it if you want to talk shit about it.
No, you know I didn't hate the movie, but the reason I didn't hate the movie is because the premise is so dumb that when you start just doing it, it's like, all right, well, this is cool.
Did you enjoy
Ryan
watching
Reynolds
it?
is a test pilot. Did I enjoy watching it? Let's see. I mean, if I had recommended it on vacation for 10 people and I was responsible for the entertainment value, I would have said, it's okay, we can change it. It's fine.
You might have been kicked out of the house. Yeah.
But I watched this by myself. And what I thought is if somebody else said, hey, I really want to see this movie, and we watched it, I'd be like, okay, it's my choice next. But that was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it.
I know what you mean. It's the same problem that I have with all those DC characters, which I'm not going to rant about it because I know I've said it before on this podcast. I just don't think they're great characters. Batman is just so much better than the rest of the characters. And I know it's Ryan Reynolds, so I know they weren't trying to do it like super dark and sincere, but it wasn't Deadpool, was it?
Are you basing Batman off the stuff you've seen in the movies? Or are you basing this off the comic book history of these
the comic book,
the
really popular cartoon, and the movies?
They do have a really, really rich history in the Green Lantern.
I know they do. I mean, but we can't assume that, can we? I think one reason why superhero movies succeed. No,
I'm saying this movie did it at a service, that's for sure. But like, there is a valuable, rich history that's been done in other movies.
In what movies?
The animated films.
Nobody's seen those. Nobody has seen the Green Lantern animated films. Nobody's fucking seen those movies, dude. I'm just saying, like the movies that succeed. We were supposed to get one this year. The superhero movies that succeed are the ones that don't rely on that. And a lot of times the ones we've ended up praising on this podcast and just in our regular lives end up doing something that was either elevating what they did in the cartoon shows or the comic books, or they turn it into the graphic novel version that's a little bit more heightened or accessible or sincere. So I don't know. Especially knowing what he eventually did with Deadpool, one, it just felt like he's in the wrong universe. Like, I think he was just miscast. Like, I kind of see...
He even poked fun at it himself.
Yeah, I mean, as he should, because, like, there are a lot of lines that... when the first... I can't remember his name, but whatever the alien is that dies and gives him the ring, and Ryan is trying to play that death scene so sincere, and I remember saying the line in my head, it was like, no, please don't go. Oh, shit, you're gone. Or something like that. And I remember thinking, I bet when they wrote that for Ryan Reynolds, they thought, surely he's going to make this funny. And he just didn't try to make it funny. So it felt like I was watching like 3 different movies. It felt like no one was on the same page. It wasn't offensive enough to make you hate it, but like, what's worse, to make you not even give a shit about something? like none of us even cared enough about this to really be upset by it. It was just, it happened. We watched it. It was fine. It's okay. It's not terrible.
Right. I mean, Dave, if you were in post-production and you were editing this film together, would you sit there and say, I don't know, there's only so much I could do? Because it was fun.
It's funny you should mention that. Do you want me to get started on my tirade?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. Yeah,
did you like it?
Well, actually, I did, and I didn't. I have a very, very complex love-hate relationship with this movie, and the reason I have a love-hate relationship is because I did some research into what actually went on behind the scenes on this shit, and like I said, Peter Sarsgaard puts in a great performance as Hector Hammond. He's a highlight. They created an epic CGI universe, which at the time was a phenomenal use of technology, so they get respect for that. But like, even Ryan Reynolds hated this movie and wanted it to fail so he didn't have to do a sequel because of the experience on set.
What was it like on
with
set?
Martin Campbell, with the direct? Like what?
There are like, when I was watching it, I'm like, there are massive jumps where they just advance the character development and they don't show it. I'm like, was that editing? Was it the shooting? Like, was it a script or what? And I hunted down the script, the original script for Green Lantern, and it's nothing like the movie. It's completely different to the movie. So picture this: your director wants Bradley Cooper. Straight up, he wanted Bradley Cooper. He was not averse, like he didn't want anyone else. He wanted Bradley Cooper, who's riding high from The Hangover Parts 1 and 2 at this point. The studio refused to even make an offer and insists on putting Ryan Reynolds in the role, who at this time his biggest hit was arguably Van Wilder 9 years before. So straight away you got resentment on set from the director, who supposedly gave Ryan Reynolds such a hard time. He wanted the movie to bomb, so there was no chance of a sequel. And add to that the fact that your script is constantly changing, and it was gratuitously rewritten from being a space opera cop film to a generic superhero film that tries to please fans and a new audience and somehow manages to confuse both. And they didn't even have a shooting script until halfway through the shoot.
What?
Like, the script wasn't finished till halfway through the shoot. They were working with whatever they got that day at some point, apparently. And then the studio, at that point, panics and tries to recut the movie themselves without the director and make a third act reveal the big bad of the movie. So Parallax was supposed to be a reveal at the end where he turns up and goes, "You failed me." That was supposed to be the big reveal of Parallax, but they turned it right around, cut it to pieces, and made it the big like the big bad of the film from the beginning. So all this was done by the Warner Studios, and they cut out all the scenes that set up half of the storylines and like the emotions that these people have, and then like the original screenplay, like I said, is out there. It opens with a VO where Earth already knew about the Green Lanterns, and a scene between young Hal and his dad as they're prepping for the test flight that kills his father, thus explaining his attitude throughout the movie. Like the screenplay from what I like from where I'm at, and I haven't read all of it yet, but it is different to the movie we saw.
Wow.
I mean, it's definitely heavy on the daddy issues.
I'll cut it some slack, but like apparently, and this is a common thing with like the early DC stuff, there was a lot of interference.
This is not uncommon with these kinds of movies, right? It's not even just the DC films, but just in all superhero movies, but especially DC, there is a lot of interference. Yeah,
and then you get to the things that they introduced, and so like I'm not saying this is an excuse, but like that was a shit show, obviously, to work through, and I'm sure it wasn't pleasant for Ryan working on that. And then you get to the changes they made, where it's like, okay, let's go to the story elements that they have included. Okay, so the photo of his father in the plane, the thing that causes my PTSD. You know what? Let's keep that in the cockpit right next to me. I'm going to keep a photo of my dead dad that I have PTSD about dying in the cockpit of my plane next to me. Why? What the fuck are you doing?
I mean, I would love to see,
because it was in the movie Independence Day where he keeps his family when he goes and dies.
I'd love to see all the footage though, because there were a lot of times where I felt like it was an editing issue. Like, there's no way that was the only coverage they had. It was literally just the storytelling. No. Like the idea, if I were to pitch that scene to you,
massive swaths out of this thing.
If I were to pitch that scene to you, though, it's not a bad idea that he starts experiencing some PTSD as he's going down after making a crazy decision. It's not a bad idea. Yeah. That lives in movies.
But he experienced the PTSD because he saw a photo of his dad in the cockpit.
But see, even that doesn't bother me. It's the way they showed you show him the photo, and then it just immediately. There were a lot of connecting the dots,
and then that cuts to a flashback.
When he leaves,
basically
the planet,
they took the stuff that used to be in linear and put it as flashbacks and put it as they cut it to pieces. Apparently,
I mean, it felt like that.
I am going to finish reading this because I bagged this movie for a long time, and I feel like it didn't get its due when it was being made.
Because nobody cares about that. Everybody, I mean, it's the final product medium, That's
unfortunate. It's like, what will get bums on seats and what will get dollars. But when you put things like there's some great sequences from the training to villain development and stuff like that, and then they just go and fuck it up straight after with the helicopter crash sequence where the helicopter's like 2 seconds behind this guy and he's like diving out of frame in front of it, and it's like, no, you haven't dived out of the way of this helicopter, you're going to die. But he didn't die.
I think the one interesting thing that's interesting for me is, so these kinds of movies have to be accessible to people who don't know the lore, who don't know the comic or wherever it comes from.
Which would be great.
I didn't know who yeah, go ahead.
They tried to do that for people. Like, they tried to make a movie that pleased both the people who don't know the lore and the fans, and managed to fuck it up for both of them.
I mean, they certainly did not make it interesting, fun, let's just say accessible, but it just why would I want, if I didn't know anything, which I didn't, they had to explain to me what the lanterns were. They didn't make it sound cool or interesting at all. Like, they didn't even try to rope me in if I didn't know anything. So if you knew a lot and you were disappointed because they fell up short, honestly, I don't even know what to say to you, because I didn't. Yeah.
No, in this movie, less would have been more. Like, they shouldn't have shown as much as they did. They should have pulled it right back.
I felt like they couldn't decide if they wanted it to be about the lanterns or about just Ryan Reynolds. Let's just put Ryan Reynolds, and this is the scenario. The scenario is the lanterns, but that's not really what the movie's about. And so they toggled in between really poorly.
No, you're right. It was a point of view. It was a point of view issue for me. I wanted to discover with him, and I felt like they were just showing me the story, so I didn't really have anybody's perspective.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds very pretentious filmmakery, but like, if you don't, we're asking a lot of audience members to get on board with superhero stories. Like, you're already asking them to take on a lot. So if you don't have the crutch, which I'm not saying that in a negative way, of humor that Marvel uses geniusly, which DC doesn't. They don't use it the same way. There's some comedic relief, but they don't use humor in the same way. If you don't have that, then it's a taller order to get an audience who's never heard of Green Lantern, which most people hadn't. I mean, I believe you, Dave. I'm sure there's a lot of good animated movies, but I had never heard anything about this character outside of Justice League.
Way better than this film. Yeah.
Let alone cared about them.
So how do you care? Yeah. And I mean, and I don't want to pick on her too much, but I didn't think she was cast very well. I don't even dislike her as an actor by any means, but I didn't buy them. I didn't buy her in that role. I didn't like them in their chemistry. Yeah. I'm glad they're happy in real life, but it just didn't work for me. Every time they were in a scene together, sure. Every time they were in a scene together, I was like, I just don't. God, this is not any better than the rest of the movie.
I'm not even done, man. Like we get
go. Yeah, go. No. I'm sorry. We keep interrupting.
We get to the end, and it's like the big bad turns up, and like it's the big bad that's supposed to be the third act reveal, and it's this enormous fucking cloud thing, and it's the villain Parallax, and Hal Jordan, who's the most amazing human ever, single-handedly. After going to the Green Lanterns and asking for help, and them going, yeah, well, we might help you, and then, oh, no, wait, no, we're not gonna. Like, they don't even cover that bit. He just turns up and has to fight it single-handedly. Defeats a fear-infused immortal guardian of the universe on his second fucking day at work.
Yeah.
Yeah, another rushed origin story. We talked a lot about these in our franchise face-off. Another rushed origin story. He gets the superpowers so quick, and then all of a sudden he's a master at using them.
Well, also, like I read another article when I was researching this, and it's like they were basically, it's like a classic example of what happens when you want your character to not do anything through the movie because they're just pussing out the whole time. And it's like he doesn't do anything. I'm scared to do this. I'm scared to do that. I quit. I'm scared to do this. I'm scared to do that. I'm gonna use my powers a little bit. I'm scared. Like, he did nothing until the end.
I know,
and all of a sudden single-handedly defeated one of the most powerful villains in the DC universe.
I hate to compare it to. It's easy. I don't think it's wrong to compare it to Batman, just because it is still the best DC movie ever made, and it's the exact same premise in the sense that you have to overcome your fear of the thing that is in your way, your major impediment that is tied to some kind of intense PTSD. It's the exact same story. So I kept thinking in the training sequence in the first half of this movie, why did it work in Begins and it didn't work here?
Because he quit.
More time passed. That literally happened in less than one day. His entire initiation and training sequence and flying back to Earth happened in like 2 hours. So there was nothing for us to hold on to. We didn't get to watch him. He went,
no, I can't do this. I quit, and pissed off back to Earth.
And then he just makes a decision.
Christian Bale did not do that.
Yeah, I mean, so is it time? I think time had a large part of it, but again, where do you get time from? Where does pace come from? It comes from the way they make it flow. I didn't even need to be sure that he was there for days and days and days training, but I did need to feel that something had happened to him. And I didn't feel like anything had happened to him the entire movie. So when he made his decision to change his mind, I felt like it was totally intellectual. And once again, I felt like they were just telling me something because I was not with him. I was so far away from his journey. I don't know.
It was like
Batman Begins.
The exposition in this came across as, here's what you've missed.
What if in Batman Begins, when he was up in the mountains with Liam Neeson, he just went, within the first day, you know what, this sucks, I'm going home.
Yeah, nah, fuck it, I'm going to the pub. Yeah, no.
And then Liam Neeson went, it's okay, you who've been training him, you're being too hard. You should take the rest of the day off.
Also, I'm gonna pick on DC just a moment more. Batman, I think another reason why that character works a lot better is because you discover and develop the vigilante archetype with Batman. They tell you the Green Lanterns are the most powerful space force in the universe. Like, that is a tall fucking order. So if you don't get on board with your protagonist to meet that order, then it's impossible. You'll never be able to catch up to that level of responsibility. So what did they do? They used sarcasm. They tried to mock it. How many times did he make a comment about, they're the most responsible? That's not me, right? I'm not responsible. It's like, come on, dude. I don't know. It's just not doing yourself any favors.
I know fear. Wait,
well,
John,
I mean, they're big on fear, and that brings me to my final point.
Okay, sorry, dude.
Mark Strongest Sinestro. Solid character development, or character delivery, I want to say, not so much character development, which was not his fault.
Yeah,
he's a good actor.
Did you watched it through the after credit scene, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there's an after credit scene where he literally is like standing there and he pops the bubble and he grabs the yellow ring and he puts the ring on and becomes a yellow lantern.
Yeah.
Fuck off. That is a massive story arc. Okay, this guy is discovered basically becoming an overbearing ruler of his own people on his planet. He decides that he's what's best for them. He gets banished to an antimatter universe. He discovers the villains who are the enemies of the Green Lantern. That's where he discovers the fear. That's where he finally turns to the fear side. He forms the Sinestro Corps. There's a whole fucking mythology there. And they put it in a 30-second fucking clip halfway through the credits so that they could justify a fucking sequel they were never going to get. Fuck you.
Dave, I know Green Lanterns are cool, but you know what's even cooler? Different colored lanterns.
Yeah. Boo, dude.
Okay,
boo.
Don't get me started.
Sweet, right?
You have white lanterns, you have red lanterns, you have orange lanterns, yellow lanterns, green lanterns, blue lanterns, indigo lanterns, and violet lanterns.
What?
Yeah.
It was red and yellow and green and
it's the entire spectrum. Their entire spectrum. So don't even fucking get me started. Carol Ferris actually becomes Star Sapphire, which is a member of the Violet Lanterns.
It is really interesting, though, isn't it? Because Jeff, you pointed out earlier. You pointed out earlier. Greg Berlanti did some amazing work with the Flash. I don't know if it was just because there was more, room to stretch and to really take your time. And
I think
Grant Gustin's really great in it. The actors are really good, but that show is really well done. It's one of the better DC productions I think that are out there. Because I know I keep talking about Batman, but I know Chris Nolan stands alone.
I feel like they don't interfere as much anymore because they kind of learned when they let Patty go with Wonder Woman. And she took it and fucking ran with it and created a $1 billion movie. Right. And they were like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe we should let these people just do what they want.
Yeah.
Because they're fucking right.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe with the Flash they had a script.
I mean, also with the Flash, you had a character you cared, a whole bunch of characters you cared about from the beginning as well. They nailed that.
Dave, I think you're right, dude. I think you're right. I think this was a classic problem of studios not trusting the people they hired to do their job.
Yeah.
Because even hearing you say that, I'm not gonna lie. Bradley Cooper would have been better in this part than Ryan Reynolds. I'm not hating on Ryan Reynolds. This has nothing to do with Ryan Reynolds. But I think that's a good choice. I think Bradley Cooper would have been a better choice. I understand why he wanted him.
You've seen the after credits scene, right, where he goes in Deadpool 2, where he goes back in time?
And
he blows his own head off instead of he blows his own head off to stop him from doing the Green Lantern movie, and he's like, "You're welcome, Canada."
Yeah.
So he gets it.
Too many problems because even though I know what you're saying about I think you made a comment, Jeff, about how these studios sometimes get in the way, but I think one thing that Kevin Feige has done so well is he has delegated out to directors and producers that he trusts, and he lets them fucking do their job. And all their movies, he trusts that they know what they're doing and that they're going to work in the world that he's creating. I have never felt that way about DC. They always feel clunky and disconnected. They don't, which would be fine if you actually just owned that and let them do do that. But you can't step in and recut the movie.
It's like that until you got to Wonder Woman and Aquaman, in my opinion. Those two were kind of a free reign sort of thing.
Well, and DC. I mean, and Batman, right? Those are three auteurs.
Yeah.
Those are all really powerful directors who know what the fuck they're doing.
But just bringing it back to Green Lantern for a second. Taika Waititi.
Oh
Taika
yeah.
Waititi.
What the fuck? I forgot about
how
him.
how do you fuck up a movie with that cast in it?
You know
I mean,
what?
yeah,
Though?
you also had Jeffrey Rush in this
Yeah.
movie.
I'm not gonna hate. I'm not gonna.
Jeffrey Rush was
Tim
brought on board.
Robbins.
Jeffrey Rush was brought on board like 9 weeks before the film went to screens.
Just as
So-
a voiceover.
Like
I didn't even know that was
apparently
Jeffrey
he was.
It's just
he was,
a voiceover, basically.
Yeah, but they were brought on board like 9 weeks or something before the film actually went to cinemas. So
Maybe this
the
is why
effects people had
Taika-
to, yeah.
Angela
Maybe this is why
Bassett, yeah,
Taika-
it's awesome.
ended up making a really good Hulk movie because he was like, "This is what you don't do."
Hulk.
Oh yeah, I always think of that as Hulk because Hulk's like the other lead in that movie, Ragnarok,
Yeah, Thor.
right?
You mean Thor, John?
Even Taika was not that funny in this movie, right? I was like, oh, good, Taika Waititi's in this movie. I forgot about this character.
Yeah. No,
And
he
even
played
he
a
was
solid.
like,
He played a solid dramatic role. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could have been anybody. We all forgot he was in it, so let's not give him too much praise.
Like there were some good things in there. Like there were some good things, and then it just skipped some stuff and assumed you knew some stuff, and like I feel like if they hadn't have interfered, I would have liked to have seen the cut we might have actually got.
Yes,
Right.
this was already 2 hours, though, wasn't it? I don't know what else.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
That's where I'm at.
it
That's
is,
where I'm
but it
at,
might have been 2 hours of different stuff.
I guess so. Well, I'm not
guys,
going to
this is on
recommend.
HBO
I
right
don't think you
now.
need to. I don't. I'm not going to get behind this. You do not need to see this movie, folks. I'm sorry.